Hello everyone, this is James Shore with another test-driven JavaScript video. I'm recording this on February 7th, 2013, and we're picking up a few days after our last recording. And what we were working on in our last episode was getting touch events working on iOS. And I'm just thrilled to be doing this because it's so much fun to physically interact with the web page. And it really, I don't know, for me at least, it feels like something that a web page shouldn't be able to do. So it's a lot of fun to be able to draw in the WeWiki page and see it show up. And I'm really looking forward to making the drawing area bigger and really styling the page and so forth. So that's what we're doing. We are drawing a line in response to iOS Touch. All of this is a little out of date. And in fact, I think that's because we're on a Spike branch. So we'll come back to that. Anyway, before we get back to the touch stuff, I just want to mention I recently opened up the show to public subscriptions, and so a lot of new people have been coming in and watching the early videos, and there's been some great comments coming in. And I particularly want to mention David Alberto Molins, and I apologize if I've butchered your name, but on episode 7, he's submitted a whole bunch of code for doing automatic watching of the source tree. So what this will do is when you run Jake, it will automatically rerun the tests and lint and everything else every time the files change. And this is something that's really handy to have that I've been wanting to put in for a while that I just, we haven't gotten around to on camera. So if you want something like that, check out this thread. It's still ongoing at the time I'm recording this. We haven't quite figured out the best way to do it, but take a look at the comments on episode 7 and check it out, try it out, submit your ideas. All right, so back to the iOS touch event stuff. I've got this set up on a Spike branch for Git, and I've installed a little node tool called HTTP Server. And so we can run HTTP Server in our client directory. I've moved stuff around to make that work a little bit better. And then go into the iPad and go to localhost 8080, the home page. And now in the iPad simulator, we can simulate touch events by using our mouse. And this doesn't seem like such a big deal, except that I've gone to it on a real iPad as well, and it really does work. This is, you can actually draw with your finger, which is, it's just fun. And actually, I had this idea that because you can tell the difference between mouse events and touch events, wouldn't it be awesome to have a different line draw, like sort of a finger painting line draw when you were using a touch event and the more precise line when you're using the mouse? I don't know. I don't know if we'll get to that, but I think that would be cool. So anyway, so this is working. It's actually working in our Spike. And I just wanted to make one change to this before we go on. You can see I'm dumping out all the information about the touch events off to the side here. And you might be wondering, how come there's so little? It's because the way I'm floating, it's all down here. So I'm going to change that real quick to just make this page a little bit narrower, say half as big, so we can see that information better. There we go. So you can see that as you're drawing, we're getting a page X. It's a little hard to see, but we're getting the page Y, we're getting the page X. I've tried this on the real iPad, and something interesting is when you do multiple touches, you get a list of all the different fingers that are touching the screen, because remember, this is a multi-touch device, so it can sense multiple fingers on the screen. You get a list of that. Page X and page Y, it seems, are the average of the touches. So if you use multiple fingers, you end up drawing in the middle. So we'll want to make sure that when we test drive this, we want to handle the case or make sure that we are only getting one actual touch. So the other thing I wanted to do, before we move on to actually test driving this, I was wondering if we needed this prevent default. What would happen if we took this out? So let's bring that back up. Oh yeah. Yeah, we need that prevent default for sure, because look at that. Without it, going up and down scrolls the screen. That's not so good. No, definitely not what we want. Okay. And what happens if but we're not, I didn't have prevent default set up on the touch move event, and it doesn't seem to be necessary. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be necessary. Okay. But I wonder what would happen if we took it out of touch start and put it in touch move instead. Actually, let's put it here. That also works. Well, you know, the defensive thing to do would be to put it on all the events. But I hate that sort of voodoo programming, you know, where you put stuff in because you think it might work. I actually would rather have my code fail so I can figure out what I don't know than to have it work for reasons I don't understand. And this is sort of goes into the fail fast philosophy, which says that it's better for your code to fail early when you're working on it than to fail late in production when you're not paying attention to it or for other reasons. So I actually write my code to fail as soon as possible. And that sounds terrible, but the reality is it's paradoxical. The reality is if you write your code to fail quickly, to just bomb terribly as soon as anything goes wrong, then that bombing tends to happen when you're testing, or it tends to happen early under circumstances that are more controlled. So yeah, I do this on production code. I really do. The Let's Code JavaScript website is filled with fail fast opportunities. And I can tell you it hasn't ever triggered, not that anybody other than me has seen, because it's not because I'm perfect, but because those things did come out early on and I was able to fix them. So not putting prevent default everywhere, it scares me a little bit, but that's more likely to bring out the issues. It does mean I'll have to deal with more, but it's a way of failing fast. Anyway, I think we're done with this spike. So let's go ahead and check this in. And, you know, before we move on, let me I don't think it was very clear in the last episode. Let me go ahead and put back the jQuery code real quick, just so you can see what's happening with jQuery, because I don't think it was terribly obvious. In jQuery, if we have the event, so before you couldn't really see, so it's not drawing anymore, see that? And if we look at what we're getting from this, we're not getting a page X and a page Y, but we are getting the original event. Now we can look at that original event here. We can look at the original event on all these events. And refresh. Oh, and now it's working. Huh. Now we're getting the information we want. But it's still not starting properly. Okay, I'm a little confused. Maybe we just need to say event equals event.original event. Maybe I was wrong about it not working on jQuery. All right, I'm going to pause and investigate this. Something's gone funky, and I don't know what it is. Back in a moment. Okay, I'm back. I got it working again. So I've tracked down exactly what the issue is. Last time I said that jQuery didn't copy the touch event stuff over, which is kind of correct, but I also misspoke in the last episode. I said that the original event didn't have the information we needed. That was wrong. I've looked into this a little bit further, and using jQuery, if we go back to the original touch event, then we do get to see all of our touch data. And there's our page X and page Y. You can see the page Y right here, and that works. Now, so you see here, I'm still using the jQuery event handler, and I'm just going down to the original event. Now for touch start, I'm not. So if I touch start and then just hold, and you look over there on the left, it's a little hard to see, but there's no page X, page Y. So that's That's good to know. So for touch events, we need to look at the original event. That's the key here. So we've got Spike code. We've got it working. We can draw. So now I think it's time to go back to our regular production code and see if we can start test driving this. Okay, and I am going to, the code will be available on our Git branch, but because I don't want to switch back and forth between branches while I'm working, I'm actually going to copy off client.js just for us to have a copy of later. And I'll just put it here in my Scratchpad. And now I'm going to go ahead and check out master. And looks like we are good to go. Okay, so we've only got a few minutes left in the episode, but in the few minutes available to us, I think rather than getting started on test driving this, since we only have a few minutes left, I think what I'd like to do is get this set up so that we can do manual testing better. So in order to do that in our production code, we're going to need to move our HTML and our vendor code into the client directory. I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, I've got our other browsers set up and our tests working. And now I'm going to go ahead and move everything over. So first, I think I'm going to move our JavaScript into our client directory. And I think that will cause everything to break because I didn't update the Testacular stuff. Yep, that caused all kinds of stuff. It looks like we need to exclude it from our lint stuff. Now, there is an issue with Jake, at least the last time I checked, where exclude wouldn't work on Windows. So I'm going to do this by saying that the client files are not in any of the subdirectories of the client directory. Okay, that's making progress, and now we need to modify this Testacular configuration to look in the right spot. Let's not call it vendor client, let's call it just vendor. So it's going to be in client, vendor, 15th time's the charm. Haha, okay, it's all running. And now I just need to go into this manually and see if I can get it to go on port 8081, it looks like, because port 8080 is taken. Oh, well, there's no HTML. Well, now I've got to do that, of course. This is my life. It's sort of an ongoing comedy of errors, really. Let's move that here. Of course, that will cause the build to break. Yep, because our smoke test can't find our page. Because WeWikiPaint is... So that's actually really good. Our smoke test failed because I moved the page and it couldn't find it. Content.dir is now source client. That's kind of nice that I had that in a constant that way. Hey, and now everything works. All right, I should be able to go back into source client, HTTP server, refresh. There's our home page, and it doesn't draw. Of course it doesn't. Oh, it says $sign is not defined. That means that, duh, I forgot to modify the HTML page to look in the right spot for the client libraries. Okay, that really points out the need to do a smoke test of our HTML. That is on the agenda, so we'll get to that. So let's try again, reload, and draw. Okay, there we go. So we are set up. Let's just make sure that it still builds successfully, and it does. I'm going to go ahead and check this in. That's it for this time. Thanks for watching, everybody. Next time, we are going to pick up with doing test-driven development of the iOS code. We finished the spike this time and in the last episode. We've got everything configured and ready to go, so we are ready to test drive it. Thanks again. I will see you next time.